Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new edition of the Lasching Out Podcast on the Nittany Sports Now Network. My name is Jarrod Prugar, and I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Kevin Quigley. Kevin, believe it or not, Penn State plays a football game this week. I know everybody's kind of tied up in the coaching search and coaching carousel around the country, and we'll talk about that later in the show. But Penn State has a pretty pivotal game here against Rutgers and the Scarlet Knights out of Piscataway, New Jersey. And it's an important game for them because both teams are fighting for bowl eligibility. Penn State, with a win, plays in God knows what bowl. And that's not actually a bowl game, but it could be. Actually, if we ever made enough money where we could sponsor a bowl, I think that would probably be a great bowl name. But both teams with a win could end up bowl eligible, which is a far cry for a Penn State team that started out 3-0, then lost 6 games, and now has won their last 2 under an interim head coach. But Kevin, believe it or not, we're here, and this is the final week of the regular season.
Yeah, it feels like the regular season's long, and I feel like the offseason is going to be longer with just all the uncertainty that's going to be going on and new names surfacing by the minute, it seems. I think you hit the nail on the head. Both teams are vying for bowl eligibility. They're both 5-6. One's going to end up 5-7. One's going to end up 7-5. That's just how the math works. Or excuse me, one's going to end up 6-6. One's going to end up 5-7. Math there. I think.
Here, huh?
Thank God. Does Rutgers care a lot about getting to a bowl game? I think they do. Does Penn State care about getting to a bowl game? Yeah, I think they care about that a little bit more just because of what they've went through. Rutgers is never expected to be good. Rutgers is supposed to be in that 7-5, 6-6 range. Like, this seems like an average season for Rutgers. Maybe occasionally they can splash with an 8-win season should lightning strike twice in the same place. But for Penn State, it's kind of like not where they were supposed to be. It's not where the expectations were. Obviously, we had far greater expectations. We thought that they'd be fighting for their 12th win in the 12th game of the season, not their 6th. So a little bit of uncharted waters for us, I think. A little bit of uncharted waters for the team. And, just does the Terry Smith momentum continue on Saturday afternoon?
It's funny. I was watching the Pat McAfee show this afternoon because I had off from work, and I was talking to my wife about how different it is to, like, they talked about the college football playoff bracket, and I was like, man, it's kind of weird to like not have to worry about that. Like, I don't even know who's ranked where. Like, I haven't paid an ounce of attention to those rankings, and it's very different. This time last year, we were kind of figuring out whether we were going to go to Indianapolis for the Big Ten championship game or just go straight into the playoffs, and what happened there, go week by week from there. But yeah, it's a much different point of where Penn State is. Both teams have gotten there in a very similar manner. Penn State won their first 3 games. So did Rutgers. Rutgers then rattled off 4 straight losses before winning at Purdue. Penn State, obviously, we know they lost 6 straight before, 2 weeks ago, beating Michigan State and then beating Nebraska last week. But they beat Purdue, or Rutgers beat Purdue, and then Maryland, and then has gotten got boat raced by Ohio State last week, 42-9, and they got beat pretty heavily by Illinois there in between. And it's very weird. But the common opponents, they lost by 10 to Iowa, and they lost by 46 to Oregon. Lost by 33 to Iowa State. So, I think Penn State is the team to beat. I think Terry Smith has been playing a really good brand of football, really fundamentally sound. And it's crazy to say that because this is a Penn State team that, really everybody thought the culture was good. The culture was great. It's a, 1-0 mentality, yada, 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 which is great until you end up going 0-1 every week. But there were cracks in the structure of this Penn State culture this year. And you're seeing that in what these players are saying after games. And I think that's telling in what has gone on in the erosion of that culture under James Franklin. And now Terry Smith has picked up those pieces and he's cleaned it up. He's gotten in the ear of Jim Knowles and made things simpler on defense. He's gotten in the ears of Andy Kotelnicki and made things better on offense. You saw it. Ethan Runkemeyer was 11-12 last week for 181 yards. That's impressive for a guy in, what is only his fifth start ish or something around along those lines. So, I mean, it's just one of those situations. But now it's an opportunity for Penn State to continue to get better and continue building that momentum while the world kind of goes crazy around them because, Lane Kiffin's got a decision to make. Coaches are already being thwarted off the open market. Jim Mora just left UConn to go to Colorado State, which is a great hire, I think, for the Rams.
Big loss for UConn too.
Yeah. I don't know how UConn's going to recover, but they're an independent. So I mean, it's a very, very weird setup for the Huskies and football. At least, obviously, you look on the flip side and you see their basketball teams, and it's, they're winning national championships, and then you're an independent in football, and it's just very, very different. So the dominoes with Lane Kiffin are going to fall. The rumor mill about all that is going to fall here relatively soon. Saturday is expected to be after the Iron Bowl or Egg Bowl. The decisions are going to be made. And like I said, we're going to talk about that later in the show. But this is a Penn State team right now, despite all the external noise, is playing their best football at the end of the season. And that's really kind of what we expected. But we expected it to not come from a team that is 5-6. We expected it to be a team that was 10-2, 11-1, or even 10-1, 11-0 at this juncture in the season when we started this, this way back in August. But that's not the case. And now they've got to figure out how to overcome one more obstacle en route to getting a victory.
I was watching the Dan Patrick show this morning. Brady Quinn was on. Ross Tucker's on all the time. But Brady Quinn especially, it seems like there's a lot of amnesia for how long the season's been and how tumultuous it's been for Penn State. Brady Quinn was talking about the firing of James Franklin and how the team has look how the team is playing right now. James Franklin could have done this. And it's no, the James Franklin coach teams lost against UCLA. They were drastically uninterested. You saw in the first 3 games of the year, they were just going through the motions. We had talked to it was just a vanilla offense. No, it just turns out that the offense was shit. James Franklin pretty much either didn't have authority over Andy Kotelnicki and his authority wasn't respected, or James just liked what Kotelnicki was doing and that he was A-okay with running this gimmicky ass offense that didn't work. And finally, Terry Smith gets it. And so that was happening on the offensive side. And then on the defensive side of the ball, yes, Jim Knowles runs a complicated defense. I think they've kept in the 4-2-5. They've kept in the nickel formation of the defense. The base is still the same, but it just seems like either A, the players have locked in, realized that, hey, we were probably mailing this in a little bit. We probably got our coach fired. I think Denida Sutton actually came out and said, we literally got our coach fired by us not executing. I think he said that in the week following the firing of James Franklin. But either Terry Smith has made them lock in, study more, pay attention. Something has changed, and I just don't. I think it's a disingenuous argument when people the likes of Brady Quinn are on television talking about that. It's James Franklin would have turned this team around too, and it's I don't know if it would have. They started the skid under him. Obviously, Iowa, Ohio State, Indiana, that 3-game stretch is going to be brutal regardless. But we got to give credit to Terry Smith here. He's gotten the authority, or he's been able to wrangle in Andy Kotelnicki. I was driving around today just thinking about football because traffic was a mess. So not just content to just ride along wherever I was. And it's Penn State really hasn't run any gimmicky plays recently. They still mess with the line. They're still uneven. They'll move the left tackle over the right side and go unbalanced and stuff like that. Unbalanced line is just old school football. Balanced line is just a traditional. That's not anything crazy, but the Wildcat's gone away. And the injury to Jackson Smolik, I'm sure hurts that a little bit, but that card's been taken away from it. And it's just been really good to see the last 2 weeks. Even in the Indiana game, they had a legitimate shot to win against Iowa. Indiana, they had a legitimate chance to win. Ohio State, they probably played their best half against Ohio State that they've played in a very long time. Like the
Mhm.
job that Terry Smith has done, it needs to be rewarded, and the only way that gets rewarded is if they go out and just kick Rutgers' teeth in on Saturday.
Right, and I think that's a good. I think they have a good chance of doing that as any. I mean, you look at kind of the way that they played last week. They've given up 10 points in back-to-back games. This team, and I highlighted this in a column for NSN this week. The vibes were just so totally different. This is a team. The pressure got to them early in the season. The pressure to perform. They were so tight and so, just hamstrung by the expectations of going back to the national semifinal and going to the national title game. And James Franklin is a coach that is always, 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 always erred on the side of and not like going after and getting it, right? He's playing not to lose more than playing to win, right? Cue the Jim Mora quote, you play to win the game. And you see that in the way that he teaches his quarterbacks to underthrow the football, right? Don't throw it in a position to be aggressive. Underthrow it, make the receiver come back to you, get that 15-yard penalty. So that aggressiveness was never really there under Franklin. That aggressiveness, that's why how many games were they in, again, especially at Ohio State, right? Where they're there at the end of the game and one play here, one play there just doesn't get the job done, right? 4th and 5 years ago, to name one.
It's not even years ago. Just every 4th and 5 play call was the same thing. It was a quarterback read option to the running back.
And usually they made the wrong read. So, I mean, going back to that and that lack of aggressiveness in moments that mattered. Listen, Terry Smith has balls, right? Like, the fake punt was huge. It was the best play of Luke Reynolds' season, which says a lot about the development of Luke Reynolds. So, I mean, Terry Smith is cleaning things up and having Penn State playing their style of football. This team did not have an identity under James Franklin, really for the most part all year. And Terry Smith has these guys still in games, right? You lose to UCLA by 5. You lose to Northwestern by 1, and now he's gone. You go out to Iowa, week 1, your backup quarterback. And I think that's the other thing, too. We are forgetting that Ethan Grunkemeyer is not the starting quarterback. Drew Aller, his season ended the same time that Northwestern or that James Franklin's season ended at Penn State. So you go out to Iowa, you win by 1, you make them have to execute perfectly. You go to Ohio State and you have them right where you want them going into the second half, and they just, again, are the best team in the country in my opinion, and then just pulled away. Indiana, you make them have to be flawless in their final drive. And then against Michigan State, you finally pull away. Things finally start clicking, especially defensively. And then obviously, the route against Nebraska last week. So, I mean, this team is playing very well. This is a team that needs to continue to play well, but there's so much more left this season that isn't in their control. And it's really a weird spot for Penn State to be in because we're not really used to that aspect of Penn State football.
No, we're not. And I just want to say, like, completely unrelated to football, like the team that's out there on Saturday, the team that's going to play in the bowl game, or the team that's going to take the field next year is going to be completely different. So just an appeal to the fans, or if anybody's just casually logging into the game, like both running backs are going to be gone. The entire offense, pretty much the entire offensive line is going to be gone. A large portion of the defense is going to be gone. Like, this is just a game just to soak it in. And luckily it is Rutgers. Like, they should be able to handle this in a controlling fashion. But I don't know. I just want to commend the team that's been out there. Just take it in. Like, a lot of these guys, and I think you saw that emotion after senior night last week, like just the raw emotion that, it's been a tumultuous time for this group. They come in 2022 removed from the COVID years. Like, the Sean Clifford era seemed to last for 8-10 years at Penn State. They're the first team to go to the college football playoff. Like, this is a group that's been through a lot. But it's sad. It's kind of the true end of the James Franklin era Saturday afternoon. So it'll be interesting to see how everything else unfolds.
Yeah, it really will be. And I think that's kind of what makes it fascinating too. This is a team that didn't have anybody drop out or opt out. You see that in North Texas. Eric Morris just left, and I believe their quarterback opted out of the last regular season game or the conference championship game or whatever. It's rumored that he's going to go to Oklahoma State with his former head coach. So, I mean, this team stuck together. And it wasn't pretty at times. It certainly wasn't pretty under Franklin. But this team is stuck together. They're playing good football. They're playing for each other. They're playing for their school. And they're playing for Terry Smith. And there's a lot of value in that because that's not something that we ever saw really out of James Franklin. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we come back for the second segment of the Lasching Out Podcast on Nittany Sports Now Network. Welcome back to the second segment of the Lasching Out Podcast on Nittany Sports Now Network. He's Kevin. I'm Jarrod. Kevin, this team is playing for Terry Smith, and they're playing hard for him. We talked about this at length, and we're going to continue to talk about this until the coach is named. I, again, am not sold that it's going to be Terry Smith. I think Pat Kraft has his guy. There's rumored to be a new guy available or a new guy on the list. It's raising the ranks, and I've seen somewhere on the Twitter sphere or the X sphere that could be Sonny Dykes. Sonny Dykes is a guy that is at TCU. He's a West Texas guy. His family's big down there. He's actually, we were talking before the show why this would be good for me. I advise fraternity at Penn State, Phi Delta Theta, that just recently came back to campus. Sonny Dykes is a Phi Delta, so obviously we try to pull a connection there. But I don't know that that's going to happen. And that's the kind of whole thing with the coaching searches, right? It's what makes the most sense, right? And people are going to be mad at James Franklin for taking recruits or whatever and yada, 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 and is what it is. But that's why they tell you recruit or commit to a school, not a coach. This is a not for long business for coaches. Now, there were rumors going around different message boards throughout the Penn State community that there were guys on the current staff after Franklin retired or got fired that said to decommit to some of these commitments. There aren't very many, maybe probably a select handful that have gone to bigger schools than Penn State, in my opinion. Maybe I think there was one that went to Georgia. I forget. Forgive me because I don't take recruiting all too seriously, and that's just kind of a personal preference of mine. But this is a Penn State team. Obviously, National Signing Day is coming up. That is going to have to hit the portal really hard. That's going to be up to the next coach. But again, the guys that are there right now, they're fighting hard. They want to play for Terry. You saw the displays after the game for Terry Smith, and it's going to make it very interesting in how Pat Kraft operates from here. Because there are some big names out there that are still rumored to be in the mix, and Kalen DeBoer is one of them. Eli Drinkwitz, I believe, is about to get an extension at Missouri. But guys like that are, it's not that Penn State is swinging and missing on these guys, but in this era of college football, it's much easier to stay home or stay where you're at and take your extension and then go somewhere new and start fresh.
Yeah, I was going to say that it just seems like every time. I will say something about the coaching search and what, some of the national media has hinted at is that, like, the longer this goes on, the more big names that get signed to these extensions, the more deflating it feels as a fan base. Quite frankly, I was never really excited about Eli Drinkwitz. Like, something about the visor just didn't sit well with me. I'm not a visor guy in my personal life. I kind of silently judge the visors from afar. So, like, never really vibed with that. Not that that's a reason, but, like, I also don't think he's done a stellar job at Missouri. Nothing that, like, jumped off the page of, like, that's who you're firing Penn State for. I really do think, regardless of the outcome of the Egg Bowl's on Friday, which I think is a little difficult because Alabama, I do believe, plays on Saturday. And if Lane Kiffin is eyeing the Tide job and the Penn State's eyeing the Tide coach and Kalen DeBoer, we might have to wait until Saturday evening, 7:30, 8 o'clock, or it might be Sunday morning before all this stuff breaks. But the whole kind of Penn State's house, I think if you're a Penn State fan, you should be holding out hope that it's Kalen DeBoer or they keep Terry Smith. The concern with keeping Terry Smith is that maybe some of the decommitments are because you're not going to commit to Terry Smith, the interim coach. Do you commit to Terry Smith, the head coach? It doesn't matter because a lot of those guys have already decommitted and are committing elsewhere. I don't think, they're all verbal. You still have a week till National Signing Day. I guess National Signing Day is what, December 3rd, next Wednesday? Is that right?
Something like that, yeah.
So they've got to make a decision fast, but if, maybe he can lure some of the recruits back, especially on the defensive side of the ball that he was the head of recruiting for. Maybe the recruiting class can still be made from something. The transfer portal, maybe you can solidify some things that you didn't get from the recruiting class. But I think if you're a Penn State fan, you still have to hope out for that just absolutely chaotic scenario where, Alabama's A-okay to let DeBoer walk. Kiffin wants the job. Alabama wants him to be the job, be the guy in that position, and then Kraft is able to hire DeBoer. How likely is that scenario? I'm not sure. I think if you're Kalen DeBoer, you are very settled at Alabama. Does he want to follow the shoes of Nick Saban? I don't know. That's more of like a media conjecture or just a fan conjecture. I think Kalen DeBoer probably has a different opinion of it, but again, we're not in his head. But who wants to come to Penn State and follow James Franklin? Because the first time you play a top 10 team, you are going to be expected to win that game. And if you don't win the first game against a top 10 team as the coach of Penn State, you're going to be dubbed Franklin 2.0, which is going to be very tough. Now, it's not as tough as Kalen DeBoer saying, oh, you didn't win a national championship in your first year. We're used to winning around here, buddy. Pack your bags and go. I don't think that's where the Alabama fan base is right now. But I think that's the best case scenario. I think the longer this goes on, the closer we get to National Signing Day, the closer we get to the transfer portal window, I think the less and less it becomes likely that it is Brian Hartline. Not that Brian Hartline would have ever left the first week of November to come to Penn State. But the longer this goes on and the weaker the recruiting class gets and all this other stuff, it's like, even if he's hired Sunday, I don't know if he's going to have enough time to call his guys that committed to him at Ohio State, be like, look, guys, we can honor all your NIL deals that we were going to have there. We can do it over here. I don't think he has that pool, especially if Ohio State's going to be the number one seed heading into the playoffs and all this other stuff. And is he going to want to leave another national championship run? But if he ever wants to be a head coach, he's going to have to leave a national championship run, because it doesn't seem like in this era that Ohio State's going to miss a 12-team playoff.
It is oddly fascinating how much Hartline doesn't get mentioned right now. He was a hot guy right at the start. But for DeBoer, I think the biggest thing is, living in that shadow of Nick Saban, right? Nick Saban has an office at Bryant-Denny Stadium. And, I fortunately watching the Pat McAfee show, Saban had a lot of great points. He talked about the Penn State program. He mentioned Brian Dable, which is an interesting guy. I don't know that he's, once you go to the NFL, you don't really want to go back to college. Bill O'Brien is kind of the one guy that did that. And I honestly think for Bill O'Brien, his issue wasn't that he wanted to leave college. I don't think that he really wanted to leave Penn State. But at that time, Penn State was mired in a lot of turmoil at the upper levels of administration. The president and the athletic director's leadership were absolute dog water. And, it obviously found a perfect opportunity to go to Houston, and things didn't end up well there. But, and then he's back in the college ranks. But, Saban mentioned on game day about this isn't a Lane Kiffin problem. This is a college football problem about coaches and having to make these decisions now. And I think he's absolutely right. Because, listen, these are guys that you were in their living rooms as recruits in high school potentially, or when you got them out of the portal. So you want to go to battle with these guys game in and game out. And now you're stuck in this impossibly difficult decision to make. Hey, what's best for my family and my future might not be what's best for this program, because I have to make this decision. My administrators are making things 10 times harder than what they need to be. The schedule makes it 10 times harder than what it has to be. And something's gotta work itself out. I don't know the perfect fix for this situation. I really don't. There isn't a good way to go about it. And I think that's the unfortunate thing, because these coaches, he said His quote was, "Every coach wants to coach their team. It should be set up so that every coach can coach their team to the end of the season. It's good for the players. It's good for the team. And the circumstances in college football right now don't really allow that to happen." And he's 100% right. And it's so like, the minor schools, it's a little different, right? But I mentioned this on the last show. Lane Kiffin, it was in the same situation as a coordinator for Alabama when he took the FAU job, right, for Florida Atlantic years ago, and then ends up, unable to coach in the championship game or whatever because of just how difficult it is to run your own program versus, do your own thing. So I mean, it's a broken system. I don't know what the fix is. It's got to come from the top, but right now Penn State's, it's not that they're losing time. They are, but at the same time, it's easy. They can easily replace guys in the portal. Like if this was like 5 or 6 years ago, and it was a coaching search, and where the signing day is now, and the portal wasn't the portal, then yeah, I think you can start to panic. But I just don't know who it's going to be. DeBoer is fascinating because he's a guy that's at Alabama for all intents and purposes, probably is fairly decent and very happy with his job. The SEC is hard to win at, but your comparison there is Nick Saban, and Nick Saban is the greatest college football coach of all time. At Penn State, you win one big game and you're already better than James Franklin. You win 2 big games, and they might start building a statue at this point, just given the way the things ended with Franklin. You beat Ohio State or Michigan twice, more so Ohio State, because Franklin didn't really have a problem with Michigan until they started cheating. But you do those things, and things are vastly different. You lose 1 or 2 games at Alabama, it's the end of the world, and people are calling for your job and they're egging your house. That's not really happening in Happy Valley.
I think the fix is easy. If you transfer schools, so move the transfer portal till after the national championship. If you transfer, make it the first or second week of February. If you are intending to transfer, if you put your name in the portal and you are intending to leave, unenroll from classes at your current university, and you are not required to enroll in classes in the spring semester, you are required to take a summer class or 2, whatever, how many credits, there should be credit minimum over the summer, but you get a 1 semester grace period for your transfer. Then the transfer portal can move until after. National Signing Day is tough, but like just get rid of early signing day. Like a lot of kids haven't even heard from schools. Like a lot of high school seniors haven't even heard back on their applications because they're open for so long and they're not going to hear until March anyways. So just move everything back to the first or second week of February. Move it till right the week after the Super Bowl. Everything happens the week after the Super Bowl. There's nothing else. Like
getting rid of the
NBA is like
a really good fix.
NBA's meh in early February. NHL's meh in mid-February. Like football's going to go down because you got the draft in 2 months, but or end of April is the draft. So that first or second week of February right after the Super Bowl, perfect time for all of this stuff to go on. You're not impacting the season. Like the North Texas coach leaving before the last week of the season, to me, is chicken shit. Like, why would I expect half of Penn State's team to still be playing right now if a coach can just leave on his own accord to go take another job? Like, I'm not showing up to work on Monday morning, interviewing for a job at another company and just being like, yeah, tomorrow I'm going to go over there and do the same thing. Like, that's just not how the world works, except that's how college football works. And I feel like the NFL doesn't even have this problem. I mean, like you don't hear like the coordinator searches and stuff on playoff teams. Like they'll interview the week of the bye week if you're a number 1 seed and you get that bye. Like maybe some of their coordinators are interviewing that week. But I don't think in the NFL you're allowed to leave until after the Super Bowl. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but like those coaches stay. They don't take the job, and it might be distracting for the team and whatnot, but you don't see that person leaving the team until after they lose in the playoffs or after whenever their losses or the Super Bowl is over, if they're a Super Bowl winning coordinator, they don't leave the team until after that. So I don't know. There's probably exceptions to that, but I feel like most of the time, like they stay committed until the team is done playing games. The bowl game should count as a game, which puts you into January. stay until after the playoff and move all this stuff to the second week of February.
I like the idea of just getting rid of the early signing day. Listen, if you're going to sign, you're going to sign no matter what. And if you're going to enroll in the university prior to the spring semester and enroll early, you're going to do so no matter what, whether you sign in December or whether you sign in February. Let's just be real there. But one of the things, maybe you move up things in the playoffs, right? I mean, why do you need 2 weeks between the conference championship game and the first playoff game? Move things up a little bit and build, that. And you and I ran into this with our real world jobs, right? Because we do this is more of a passion project for us than it is for our career. But, move things up a little bit. Move that first week of playoff games, for the conference championship game. Okay, you make it there. That's one extra, play, but 2 weeks off, that's not easy by any means. So, I mean, go back, play, take a week off, have a week of preparation. That's an extra bye week, so to speak, and then get right into it, after finals week at your university or wherever. I mean, let's be real. Most of these guys aren't going to in-person classes anyway. So, I mean, a lot of it's virtual. It is what it is. But
I've heard a lot, like, especially since like in the after COVID era, like, I mean, I haven't been in school since COVID, but like these kids talk about their day and it's like none of it mentions class. Like, I wake up, I go to practice, I lift, I go eat lunch, I do my homework, I go to afternoon practice, go hang out at my friend's house, blah, 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 blah. And then I go to sleep. And it's like, but when did you go to class? And it's like, I don't go to class. Like, all of my classes are online.
Yeah.
I mean, there are exceptions, like,
right.
But
so, I mean, there's obviously that. But yeah, I mean, move everything back, right? I mean, start 1 week in August earlier, or start 1 week earlier, or whatever, and then you run into bowl season right around the same time. Listen, I'm a huge proponent of the Rose Bowl being the national championship game every year. I think that would be phenomenal. It is truly the granddaddy of them all. If you ever have a chance to go to a Rose Bowl game, I think you need to do it. You need to soak it all up. I love the Rose Bowl game that I went to. It's still a game that I will always talk about. I was standing on the sidelines, the final drive, talking to Lee Corso. Like, that is a memory that I will always have. I'm very fortunate for being able to go to that, and it was great. So make that the championship game, and make it all end January 1st, and it'll be done. Then you don't run into the issues with the trimesters or the semesters or whatever. But something has to be done to fix it. And let's be real. Then you don't run into these issues with the NFL, them playing on Saturdays. You just make life easier for everybody involved. And going back to, the real world problems, travel. Travel was tough to go to the semifinal games because it was midweek, right? So, I mean, listen, let's make things easier for all involved and just simplify the schedule and everything involved in it. And that's going to help alleviate a lot of these coaching issues for these teams. Once they're done, they're done. They can be with their team. It still allows them time to prepare and put together a staff and a roster for spring practices and moving forward, and let schools figure out their plans from there.
Yeah. We got to figure out the schedule. Yeah, and then, like, the Bulls, like, I get the Bulls wanting to be on January 1st, but like you said, like, if January 1st is in the middle of the week, you need a week off. So this year, January 1st was, you're right, the 1st was Wednesday. Penn State played in the Orange Bowl on the 9th on a Thursday. So I think we woke up, flew to Miami on Thursday, and then we had to miss Friday at work. So, like, we had to take 2 days off of work just to go. And, like, that's not really sustainable. Like, I felt like I was playing catch up on my vacation all year because I took 2 days off in January to go to a bowl game. Like, kind of throws off the whole, like, the logistics of it for just kind of the average common fan. It kind of stinks. So we got to figure it out.
Right. And I mean, listen, let's be real. Like, looking at the college football playoff schedule, and I know we're going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but I think this is important to note. The conference championship game for the select teams that are in the conference championship game, December 6th, right? First round playoff games, December 19th. move those back to December 13th. Because if you're playing a conference championship game, 9 times out of 10, you're getting a first round bye anyway. And then your first game is going to be on the 20th, no matter what. So listen, move it back a week. And then, it's 10 days between the semifinals, 10 or 11 days between the semifinals and the finals. That is absurd to me. It's 11 days, 10, 11 days between the first round and the quarterfinals. Like, listen, play them Friday and Saturday. That's going to put you at the 26th and the 27th. All right? Or you figure out a way to make it work to get these games on January 1st. But you have to figure out a middle ground here, because January 19th, you're already into different trimesters or different semesters at the colleges, which eliminates the transfer portal, because then you're going into your situation where, hey, listen, you got to take a bridge semester, right? You got to take the national championship game is Monday, January 19th. Played on a Saturday too. Like, that's the other shit that irritates me too, is like, we talk all year about Saturdays are for the boys and Saturdays are for college football. Then you're playing shit on Fridays, which is whatever. But then you play December 31st and you play January 1st. Like, what are we doing? Like, games that matter should be on Saturdays. That is your day. That is college football Saturdays, and put all the pomp and circumstances on Saturday. That would make that January 17th. Like, that's how it should be, in my opinion. But I am paid to teach kids how to fix their behaviors, not put, people in the college football playoff committee doing 6-7 bullshit hand signs and on interviews.
Like, we got to go back to the 14 playoff format where the semifinals were New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and then the final was 1 week after that. Like, 1 week, I'm okay with.
That would be perfectly fine.
In 1 week, you're good. Like, you're still okay for all of this transfer portal stuff to happen, because very rarely, like, mid-January is kind of the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, that week. That's not when classes start. I would imagine the classes start for most people January 12th or the 19th.
And realistically, teams that aren't in the national championship game, they're already entering the portal anyway. So, like, that's all fixed. And the portal reopens for those teams, and that things just to get adjusted for those teams. I think that's probably the simplest fix it can be. But this situation it's got to change, because you're putting teams in programs, universities in no-win situations while they're trying to figure out, with all this money involved, right? Like, there are tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars involved and at stake, and there's not a good situation for everybody involved that there needs to be.
Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to see, does the FCS have championship games?
Yes. Division, yes, they do.
So how are they done? Because their playoff starts this weekend. The FCS playoffs start this weekend, and I don't know their schedule well enough. I just don't know how they're done already.
They start this weekend, then the 26th. The semifinals are the 20th, and the championship is the 5th.
So they figured it out, like and
that's with a 2-week break because of finals.
Yeah,
right?
So
like,
they have it. Or if you make your conference championship game, you get in the playoff. I don't know, and you get rich out conference championship games.
Yeah, or you just eliminate the conference championship game. I don't know. I don't know what the right move is for that aspect of it, but I mean, or no, I'm sorry, they don't take off for finals. That's their quarterfinals. But I mean, either way, they're done by January 5th. Like, that's perfect, And make sure you still get your New Year's Six bowls, because I think there's value in those. Use them as your quarters and semifinals and national championship game. Again, end with the Rose Bowl, end with the granddaddy of them all. It's right there. They just got to take it. But we're going to take this into the third and final segment and wrap things up before we get any further into a black hole that we can't get out of on the Lashing Out Podcast on the Nittany Sports Now Network. Welcome back to the third and final segment of the Lasching Out Podcast on the Sports Now Network. He's Kevin. I'm Jarrod. Kevin, let's get right to it. I just got off the phone with the representatives of the NCAA. They say our ideas are chicken shit and, just make our picks.
All right. Let's see. First off, we got Penn State traveling to Rutgers. I'm going to have to type as we go on this one. Penn State is a 13.5-point favorite. I'll take the lead on this one. I'll say Penn State wins this one.
Yeah, I got Penn State in this one too. I think it's going to be another big win for them. I like the way they're playing. I like the way that they're playing for Terry Smith. And again, he's the only one that gets an on-the-job interview with the program, and there's significant value in that.
Let's pick the Egg Bowl. Ole Miss, number 7, travels to Stark Vegas, Mississippi, take on Mississippi State. Mississippi State is vying for bowl eligibility, but it's rivalry week. Anything can happen. Obviously, the Ole Miss coach Lane Kiffin's super distracting to his current program. I just don't know if it's going to be an issue for him. I still think Ole Miss pulls it off.
I think Ole Miss is too, but this is such a unique situation, right? Like,
I will say the problem is we're recording this on Wednesday night. There's Wednesday night, all day Thursday, and before noon on Friday for any of this shit to leak. And if it gets out that Kiffin's leaving before their game kicks off on Friday,
if that happens, we are canceling this game for our picks. But I do like Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss has a good chance to win. I think they're a really good team. But again, it is a rivalry game. Anything can happen. But they are the far better team. But they are the team that is surrounded by the most controversy right now in all of it. So I got Ole Miss. But again, like I said, I'm adding that caveat. If something happens between recording and game time, then yeah, I think that vacates the pick.
Well, luckily we picked the same. So, let's
unless
see.
Of course they win, then it doesn't matter.
Number 4, Georgia travels to Atlanta to take on the number 23 ranked Yellow Jackets. I'm all for it. This game came into my Instagram algorithm today. I'm all for it. The Georgia Tech, obviously a big engineering school. Nerds like myself, game recognizes game. The nerds have learned how to meme. I thought that was hilarious today. If you have not found it, I forget where I saw it, but Georgia Tech said, regardless of who wins, we all end up in orange. The Georgia Tech alumni were in NASA spacesuits, and all the Georgia alumni were in jail jumpsuits. Fitting.
Another Georgia guy got arrested too.
Yeah, fitting that another Georgia player was arrested for more traffic violations or another sling of traffic.
You want to talk about rivalry week? Georgia players and street and traffic
laws. Traffic laws in Georgia and Athens just don't mix very well. Georgia Tech, I feel like they need this a lot. I just don't know if they have what it takes to take down the Dogs.
Georgia by 20. Georgia's a far better team than Georgia Tech. SEC is far greater than the ACC, without a doubt.
Just so it's clear, I am also picking the Dogs. Here's one where we might have some differences. This is a big Friday. All these games are on Friday. This is going to be a big week of picks. We need some parity. Number 3, TMU, Texas A&M, travels to Austin, Texas to take on the 16th ranked Horns. TMU, I'm not a fan of their schedule so far. UT looks like they're on the up and up, and I think I'm going to pick the Horns here.
I'm just going to go against you because I like the color maroon at this point. Texas A&M, you're right. The schedule hasn't been great, but we'll see what they're made of. And this is a big college football playoff implication type game for the Aggies.
7:30 p.m.
for the Longhorns.
7:30 p.m. kick Friday night. Surprising statistic, ESPN shows the top passer who's the top passer between the two teams. Arch Manning has more passing yards than Marcel Reed this year. If you had told me that, I would have said you're a damn liar. So fun little fact there. Another big battle of Arizona, battle of the land of the sun. Arizona, number 25, heads to Arizona State. I don't think we need to pick this one. My guy Noah Fafita's in that. We haven't talked about Noah Fafita this year.
We haven't talked anything about
that's on me. That's on me. That's my guy Noah Fafita. I've kind of abandoned him.
Yeah, what are you doing? You're
9 p.m.
terrible.
on Fox. 9 p.m. on Fox for that one. I'm kind of just shying away from that one. I don't think we need to pick it. Arizona's a 1.5 point favorite, despite being the road team and lower ranked. So that's a little intriguing. Do you want to pick that game?
Which game? Arizona State?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. I was gonna roll with my guy. Let's talk about the.
Actually, yeah. You know what? Let's do it because I'm taking Arizona State, so that's fine.
All right.
Throw it on there. Let's do it.
If you're listening to us this far, thank you. Subscribe. You're a real trooper. Let's see. ASU is the 20th ranked team and 1.5 point favorite for Arizona. All right, let's talk about the game. Can't call it
Miami.
No, excuse me.
Man.
I can't go old English. I'm afraid I would get a trademark infringement. So I'm gonna call it the game. Number 1, Ohio State travels to the Big House. Of course, that's the noon kickoff game as always. Travels to number 15, Michigan. It's been over 2,000 days since Ohio State has beaten them. This will be their 5th attempt. Anything can happen in that game. I just think that this year it feels like Ohio State's going to get the monkey off their back.
I think so too. It has to be, right? I mean, if not, yikes. But again, and Nick Saban said this too. He's like, I would much rather win a national title than beat Michigan. As much as I'd like to beat Michigan, I want a national championship. That's why you play the game. But
the dig at Ohio State fans is hilarious today. He's like, you guys are nuts that you care more about beating Michigan than care about winning a national title. But
yeah, it is fascinating. But yeah, I mean, I think this has
college
to be
football.
The year.
That's college football,
Though
right?
we thought last year was going to be the year too. So I wouldn't be surprised either way. But I'm going to take Ohio State for the sanity of my marriage.
Smart man. Let's see. ACC title game on the line, I believe, in this one. Number 12, Miami travels to Acrisure Stadium. And
I got Pitt. 100% I got Pitt solely because it's Miami and they're playing North Florida. Like, Pat Narduzzi is going to roll in to Acrisure Stadium, and it's going to be the biggest win in that stadium all year. Because the
Steelers ain't doing shit this year. The rest of the way out. I also like Pitt. I was going to pick them before you did. So, yeah, sure. 35 degrees at kickoff.
Oh, no
South Florida boys. Like, that's Miami can't
win in 50-degree weather in Texas.
Miami can't win outside of the state of Florida, except their lone win outside of Florida this year is at Virginia Tech.
Oh man, they lost.
They lost in Florida to Louisville, but they lost at SMU in Texas. They were home against Stanford, home against Syracuse, home against NC State, away at Virginia Tech.
That's a terrible schedule, by the way.
I
don't think people are talking about how bad that schedule really is. They obviously start with Notre Dame, and South Florida is South Florida. You know, in theory, Florida should be a lot better. And then Florida State ended up being dog water. But, man, after that, the ACC schedule is god-awful.
They've not left the state of Florida but one weekend this year.
That's great for travel.
Great for the team budget. I mean, you're not paying for flights, but you did have to fly to Blacksburg. And then, of course, you have to fly to Pittsburgh this weekend. But
speaking of Blacksburg, I want the next game, Virginia Tech.
Oh, Commonwealth Cup. I had one more game before that, but Commonwealth Cup.
I just want to do it right now, and then we'll go back to whatever game you wanted to pick.
Publicly, I've never fully admitted it. I'm a closet Cavalier. I cannot stand the Hokies, though. I did get waitlisted at UVA when I was trying to transfer from my first university before I wound up at Penn State. Virginia's the 18th ranked team in the country. Night game in Scott Stadium. The environment in Scott Stadium at night.
Ranked team against James Franklin against a ranked team. The headline's right itself.
He's not coaching though.
Cavaliers.
Yeah, I think it's UVA.
Just because I think that's funny.
The one I was going to go to before this, though, was number 14, Vanderbilt. Travels to Tennessee. Fun fact in this one, and it's not Tennessee's fault that this is the case, this is the first time in the history of this rivalry that both teams are ranked. That being said, I got the Volunteers. 3:30 ESPN kick.
Yeah, I got Tennessee too. I mean, listen, I just think it's so hard to get on board with Vandy. It just really is. And I think, which is really weird to say, because like they're just lovable losers to an extent, but like Pavia makes it, he's like Aldi brand Johnny Manziel without, I think, the alcohol and drug problems. But his arrogance is absurd. Like there's a difference between cockiness and confidence and just sheer arrogance, and he goes way over that line.
I do love the Theo Vaughn with Diego Pavia's mom circus going on.
Yes.
That I think Theo Vaughn has two brain cells both fighting for the third smartest up there. Some of the stuff he says, like, you have no idea where any of that
I remember
stuff
when he was in the real world.
But like for the most part, like mildly entertaining, and it's simply hilarious just because of how stupid it is, like what comes out of his mouth. So that whole thing has been kind of fun to track. I want to find a way to pick Vanderbilt just so we have more things to talk about. But I just can't. Like, nothing in my being can trust that. And then let's see the rest of the games. I think that's it. We picked a lot of games this week.
How many are there?
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9, and I think we only differed on 2 of those. Iron Bowl is at 7:30. First time it's been at night at Jordan Hare in quite some time, maybe since the Kick 6. I don't know if that sounds correct.
Auburn on upset alert, huh?
Alabama definitely on upset alert. UCLA travels to USC for another rivalry. American Conference matchup for Charlotte at Tulane. That's important, although Charlotte's 1-10. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Tulane win that game, and they're probably in the playoff because JMU looked not great against Washington State last week, I do believe, the Cougs. So they have not been able to crack into the top 25 as that group of 5 representative. I think Tulane is the only group of 5 representative in the top 25 right now. So that's kind of a win in your in situation. And then SMU, Cal, and Notre Dame, Stanford. I don't think either of those.
Listen, before we go, I want to highlight. I think this is gonna be something I want to do like every week now, because I think this is just fascinating. Tickets for Penn State's game last week got down to $3 before kickoff against Nebraska. So for top 25 games right now, I'm just gonna highlight a couple. For the game, it's $277. Get in price, which is not, honestly, that's not shocking. $207 for Ole Miss, Mississippi State.
Seems kind of low, honestly.
Yeah. $175 for Clemson at South Carolina, and then Battle of Mids. Number 5, Texas Tech at West Virginia, $13. This is a wild one too. Miami and Pitt tickets are $28.
Pitt couldn't even sell out the Notre Dame game.
Well, yeah, Miami fans don't travel well.
But like Notre Dame, like Pitt Notre Dame still didn't sell out. Like I saw pictures and half of the upper deck was still open. Like,
yeah,
it's kind of embarrassing.
Vandy at Tennessee, $125, which is low. Vatech, Virginia, $124. Iron Bowl, $284. That seems about right. Shockingly, but this could be LA. UCLA, USC, $129. That's probably just a normal price for a ticket. And then let's take a look at the
$8 to go to Tulane, Charlotte.
And Penn State Rutgers is $60.
That's a night game for Tulane Charlotte. $8 to go to a night game. That's not bad.
Yeah, I mean that's tickets. Northwestern at Illinois, $6. So Penn State is the fourth highest ticket for games this week. It's $60 in the Big Ten. It's Ohio State, Michigan, followed by UCLA, USC, Oregon, Washington tickets are $71, and then Penn State $60, which is wild. Two teams that are fighting for their bowl playoff or bowl game lives. Before we go, any parting shots, Kevin?
I think I'm good. We need to be thankful this week. So I'm going to stay positive.
Very thankful for coaching searches giving us a lot to talk about, and the NCAA being sheerly incompetent, also giving us a lot to talk about in combination with everything else. For Kevin Quigley, this has been Jarrod Prugar. Thank you as always for listening. We will catch you again next time on the Lasching Out Podcast, Nittany Sports Now Network.